1 minute after the hour on May 20th, 2025. My name is Joey Ragona. Welcome to Heart Centered Marketing. We are in for a delightful guest as well. My friend Lauren Jawno is here. I'm having trouble speaking today. Maybe it's because I had a hefty dinner just before today, the show. Usually I don't. I usually wait till like right after. So maybe that's screwing up my palate. How are you doing today?
I'm good. We're a minute late because of me.
Yeah, but you know what? It's not you. I think uh, we
It is.
we had some technical difficulties, but you bounced on, and then we just started chatting away. And then I happened to look up and think and look. Oh wow, it's 7:01. Okay, we should go live. So, oh my
Oh,
gosh, the fun and the adventures of doing a live podcast every Tuesday here since the 2019s, I believe it is. And you've been here for countless episodes, bringing the heat. Today is a epic episode already. I know what it's going to be about I don't know what it's going to be about because it always goes different ways. But the intention is to talk about the intention and the importance of intention today, right? Do I got that right?
there we go. Perfect.
So what are we talking about? Like, how do we want to start this out? I made a couple of some notes here so we can maybe have that as a backup. But do you have anything that you want to start talking about? As you do that, I'm going to look at my iPads to make sure that I've got
Yeah.
everybody. Yeah, cool.
So what Joey and I were talking about is, I mean, there are different ways you can say it, but really, it's how you show up and is it congruent across the board. Personally, how you showing up, the energy you bring, uh, yeah, just how you show up, and is that congruent with your message and your audience? Do all the dots connect, right? Because this is all about building relationships
Right.
and people. And so if things are off, people pick it up. Like if you saying one thing, you're doing another. Not that they can see you around and about, but they feel
Right.
it.
Right.
The other thing besides that is, and then I'll let you take over, is just congruence across the board, right? That everything just matches up. And so I think it's very easy to get caught up in, oh my God, my product or who am I marketing to? And and then forgetting about possibly you, right? And when you're present and what's the perception? And does
Yeah.
it all match up, in other
Right.
words?
Yeah, I'm glad you're bringing this up. By the way, I just want to give shout out to Kali. Hi, I see you, Kali. Thank you for being here. You're watching live. Finally got the my Facebook thing over here that I can see the comments there. If you're watching from anywhere else outside of my Facebook group, let us know in the comments with the hashtag live or hashtag replay. If you're watching the replay, I can see the comments coming up here. If you've got any questions, feedback, want to input some of your brilliance, we'd love to hear that as well, because this is not just a conversation between Lauren and I, it's a conversation with you, everybody, the tribe. Now, I loved what you talked about, Lauren, in terms of the congruency, and you talked about that your customers or potential clients can feel it when you're out of congruence. So I want to talk to that first, because that's one of the biggest things that I talk about with clients or potential clients, and it's more. I don't use the word congruent. I use more of consistency, and consistency in messaging and things like that, or staying on the track when you really can't see things happening, and that's really sucks. It really hurts. It's hard when you can't see any ROI. Is that what you're talking about?
I mean, that's part of it.
Okay.
I think it's, I guess a way to put it, if someone had to have a drone and they were following you around,
Okay.
would
Yeah.
who's of would they see a representation of you in what you're selling,
I love
right? And
that.
so I know, like Joey, I know I don't have to follow you with a drone. I mean, like we've spoken enough times, but because when there is that, where you go, man, you can shop at my front door anytime, and I won't freak out
Yeah.
because that instills confidence and it instills belief in yourself because you trust yourself. But then that translates
Yeah.
into your message and how you interact with people. I was just meeting earlier today with someone, and they do a lot of speaking, and they had just done a workshop for about 200 people, and they just knocked it out the park, right? And so this is a little bit off, but it speaks to it. She said the reason it was, so obviously great audience, all of that, but she'd already done 3 this month, and so she was, she was in the groove. But it's the same person, right? And we all have off days. I think I might be having like a scattered off day today, but it's still who we are.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think people can pick that up, and it builds trust quicker. And sometimes when we're so caught up in doing and we have to get this done and that done, like we sometimes forget, like, do we check in with ourselves? Are we reflecting on how we're showing up? Yeah. So, and then when things, as you say, when it's taking time and you're not necessarily seeing the results straight away, to stay the path and not, oh, now I have to change this, or now I have to change this, or I have to be someone different, and this person's doing this, so maybe I should be more perky or energetic.
Yeah.
And it's what the consistency, because consistency, it's like, what was that fable with the tortoise and the hare, right?
Yeah.
Um, Consistency wins all the time.
Yeah. And it's funny you mention that because, staying intentional or congruent or consistency and then looking at what the results are was really important, because that was one of the biggest moments of my life when it wasn't working. And when in 2016 to 19, that was my, period of a lot of pain, and nothing was working. But even though it wasn't working, I was involved in stuff that I don't really align with too much. But I just kept going and going. I didn't really give up on it. One could maybe argue I spent too long in it or letting it happen. Maybe not. I don't regret it at all, because I keep coming back to that story. I keep coming back to those moments of like, oh, now I know why I do what I do now, or what I don't want to do. But that was another part of this, where when you're intentional about what you're trying to do, and even if it's not working, there is a period sometimes in the business growth, I would argue it's always going to happen at some point, where stuff just doesn't happen. And the whole point of it is, I learned this from Frank Kern, and it was, look back at the last 30 days. What worked, what didn't work, replace what didn't work, like with something brand new, right? Continue to do what worked, right? Move on with, and then replace what didn't work with something new, and just do it again every 30 days, look back. And I always give him credit for that, because that was a really cool way of analyzing it. And I did that for 3 years. This didn't work, this didn't work, this didn't work. And finally it broke in February of 2019. And like, well, the last 3 years didn't work. So I'm done with that. Right. There was a point to me telling this story, but I think it had to do with when things aren't happening too. It's a good thing, because it tells you what you don't want.
Yeah. And the other thing, which kind of the two connect, we talk about consistency and then we talk about intention, right? You have to be consistent with the right things.
Yeah.
I can be very consistent organizing, color coding, because I love that, right? And I can be very consistent with that. But that's not, I mean, I need to be consistent, but it can be a distraction. And we've spoken about that before. So I think it's also, when we talk about reflecting, is, were you consistent with things that moved the needle forward? And were you intentional about how you were going to do that? And the only,
Yeah.
well, not way, but the best way, I think, to be intentional is to do exactly what you were saying, is to reflect and assess, right? Because then I think it just goes to another level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the intention of the business, because that's a big one. I see that, when I was building, I've been in business like all my life. I don't know anything else, but I was never intentional about it. I was always reactive. It was always about, duct taping things together. It was always about, oh, that's really cool, let me try that. And ADD in this case doesn't help, right? Because it's always shiny objects. And so now I'm more intentional about the business. It's been like that for the last at least 5 years, if not more. And I know that doesn't even sound like a long time, but it really is, for someone who's been, 40 years in business, and knowing what it's like to just get up every day and go, what am I going to do today? Right. And it's funny because I say this kind of like tongue in cheek almost, because I'll get messages every day, DMs every day from someone pitching me about, let's grow your YouTube channel. You should have more views. Let's grow your Instagram channel, like all these things. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not saying I shouldn't be growing this stuff, but I'm very intentional of why I don't focus right now on those things, you know? And it has everything to do with what I teach, what I talk about, which is building a dream business life, which is simplifying, removing a lot of the stuff that goes on, because there's arguments on both sides, which is, um, yeah, you should be on every channel, you should get as much as you can, but I'm very intentional about why I don't do that at this point. So I'll give credit to Ryan Levesque, because he mentioned this, and I forget how he said it, but I said I was going to steal it from him. But he said, be intentional about what you don't want to grow, something like that. Like, so it was a
Yeah.
shift in, okay, these are the things I don't want to do, and I'm very intentional about why I'm not going to do that. And that was how I was living. But he said it in a way that was so brilliant. Forgive me, Brian. Ryan, for not remembering what it was. It was such a cool way he said it. But anyway, I'm like, yeah, I'm on the right path here. So it's really cool. What do you think about that?
So there are two things that you brought up that are so important. So one is, yes, you have to know I'm getting really good at saying no.
Yeah.
Um, because I've had a huge pivot, and I've got so much to where I need to invest my time.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I got to the no. Um, oh, but what I wanted to say, when we spoke about, some people say you've got to be on YouTube, like every channel, right? So I don't agree with that, and I know, I think it was Natalie Ellis, who said that, there'll be a phase where, oh, webinars don't work now. And then there'll be another phase, oh, this doesn't work now. And then there'll be another phase that doesn't work. And so people, oh my God, webinars don't work. So now I got to do this other thing. Oh my God, this doesn't work. I got to do masterminds, right? And she said, it doesn't matter which one you pick,
Mm-hmm.
one, and just work it like there's no tomorrow. She goes, they all work. The problem is people um, don't put the time and the focus on it. So,
Right.
I've got a really good friend and colleague, and she's focused on Instagram, right? And she's like so talented. She could be everywhere. She could be everywhere. And she, for the last, it's not even 8 months, I don't think. Now,
Yep.
obviously, this is what you do. Like, so she's on the Instagram, she's building a following, which is different. But the point is that I think I could be wrong. I think she went either from 800 or 1200 about to she's just hit over 8,000 in
Wow.
7 months,
Wow.
because every day, that's what she does. She does her 10 minutes or 15 minutes. She's focused on that one thing. She's not getting distracted by Facebook and LinkedIn, even though there's that pressure, oh my God, be here, be there. And so that's intention, that's consistency, and you got to pick a lane, I think. Some people might
Yeah.
be good at multiple lanes and do really well. I'm not like that. I need a lane. I need to
So
stick to.
I think a lot of people need a lane, and so many people think, especially entrepreneurs, think that they could do all of it, and eventually they can't. Like, they just can't be consistent across the board unless you got these teams and you build it all out. And I want to do a show with you about teams, even if it's one person, one assistant, going into two assistants or whatever. But let's go back to the content for a second, and being everywhere. And if you're here live with us, let us know, #live or #replay. I'm looking down here. If you see me looking down here, which you can't see what I'm looking at, is my iPad to see the Facebook comments, but the other one's up here. So anyway, I'm not ignoring you. Um, Going back to what you said about being across the board on everything, like, so intentional. Let me go back to the first shows that I started here, which I
Mhm.
think it was around 2018. Like, that was the idea. The idea was this: I didn't know how to really spread myself across all of the platforms, and I was I didn't really want to at that point. Okay. Maybe it was a fear of something. I don't know what it was, but my thought was this, and this is going back to the topic of today, intentional. Okay. What could I do every week that is pretty easy for me to do that will help me in the future? Here's the question. And by the way, spoiler alert, this is what it is, right? But then if someone challenged me and said, well, how's that going to help you in the future? The answer is, I don't know. However, now fast forward to 2025, and actually the conversation I had with Kath this week about all of the content that I've been that I created since 2019 on these shows, because now she's transcribing a lot of the stuff I didn't do, right? So she's doing all this stuff. And I said, because we were talking about content distribution and like, how do I get more content out? Or now I'm growing my YouTube channel or my LinkedIn story. So I'm focusing now, right? I'm intentionally focusing now on LinkedIn and Facebook. So this is all intentional. But the intention didn't come at the beginning. The intention was just give me a way to get content, create content that's easy for me. Okay. I know this is a long-winded thing, but it'll make sense. So then we're having the conversation this week, and so I said, okay, you're almost done with the HCM, because there was other shows that were like years before, and I go, there's a whole bunch of other shows, and I showed her. She's like, oh my god, I didn't realize there was that many. I go, yeah. I go, remember I told you that when I get into content mode, when I'm done these other time sensitive projects, that I'm going to be just totally focused on creating like huge valuable content. Where's it going to come from? It's going to come from the last 6 years that I've been doing this one thing. And I don't even have
Right.
to think about it, right? That was intentional. So then whatever the intention is going to be now, which is, okay, I'm going to grow YouTube, or no, I keep saying YouTube, LinkedIn, and maybe YouTube, with the intention of, hey, let's go cut up all of this stuff that's back here for the last 6 years into little clips and hire somebody to go put them onto YouTube for me. See, so this is what I want everybody to understand about intention. It doesn't have to be that you have to have the entire plan. It is
No.
about, why are you doing Tuesday nights every single Tuesday, and you don't have thousands of followers or viewers online? Like, why do you keep doing it? Well, the reason is because every single Tuesday, right? All of this is transcribed and it's content. Anyway, I don't know what you think about that, but that was a story I think that needed to be told.
Yes. I mean, when we reconnected, I mean, you remember what I said to you? Oh my God.
Yeah.
I could, I mean, the amount of content you have is insane.
Yeah.
And how organized it is, like, blew me away. It still does.
Thank you.
And so back to like picking a lane, right? And I struggled with this as well. I even struggled with it last year,
Yeah.
is being afraid to pick a lane. Because if I pick this lane, then then I'm cutting myself from all those other lanes, and then maybe I'm cutting off, potential clients. So, and I know, like, I think all the coaches that I've worked with that have, are doing their own thing. That's part of why they struggle. One of the reasons that they struggle to
Yeah.
identify their dream client is
Yeah.
because they're so scared to niche it down. Because, oh, then I don't get this person, I don't get that person, right?
Yeah.
And so I learned a great thing, from Marie Forleo, around all of this. And we know this, and everyone probably knows this. Okay, so let me just use myself as an example because it's easy, right? I'm a coach. Not to be like cocky or anything, but there's probably not a lot of people I couldn't coach. But I can't market to everyone, right? And so what Marie Forleo was saying is, you niche down. I mean, I'm speaking to the converted, but it's about lanes, right? I'm also it's going to get there.
Yeah.
Is so that you can market to that person and you can speak their language and they feel like you know them better than they do.
Right.
Then, but then you'll get all the other people. right? Because they will also resonate with it in some way. You actually won't limit yourself,
Right.
right? Um, because other people will resonate with the message, but they may be a little differently. They're not the ideal person. So her thing is that you actually end up with more
Hmm.
because you go small and then organically it goes bigger. And it makes sense because when I think of it, I've gotten clients who, oh, someone told me about you, but it's not, I'm not really I'm not in their like
Hmm.
arena, but I can help them. So
Hmm.
they found, now, if I was doing a lot of marketing, they wouldn't have been in my, like they wouldn't be in my thought, like, oh, this is the person I'm speaking to. But they found me, right? And so, and again, for me, it's simplicity. And I understand it's hard. I struggled to make that. Like, okay, this is my lane, I'm picking it, and I'm in. Um, and then be consistent with it. But I think that is, I don't know your experience, but I think that is a hard thing. Well, the
Yeah.
coach, they struggle with that.
Yeah. Every person I speak to has a problem with niching down, and um, yeah, and picking that lane, and then I always go back to sometimes I share the story with them, which is very quickly or a very quick one when I was helping realtors. And I first started with avatars, and as I was really into avatars, and first learned about it many, many, many years ago, and like this is brilliant. And I remember one of the most famous things I did with the client was help him understand, pick one person. This was the investing world, but one investor you help, like one specific person who's looking for a specific thing, not all investors who want apartments and boats and just one thing. So we did that. And I said, what's going to happen is you're going to say, I invest in Toronto townhouses by the lake. Like that's what I do. What's going to happen is some people on the outside of that are going to say, listen, I don't have a townhouse, but I have a condo in downtown Toronto. Would you be able to still sell it for me or invest? Or would you still look at that? Then he can say, yes, yeah, I'm going to, but they're known for that thing. And so this is what happened. He got so popular because of the one thing he was saying. And it was, we nailed it down to like specifics. I help you buy this type of property with this much cash flow, blah, 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 right? It was so specific that he had a waiting list to go out on a the tour and the drive with him. And we also started charging people $1,000 to go on the ride. So like he was so niched down. It was like, if you want to go, like, I'm not going to waste any time. You have to pay $1,000, which would come off the end when you bought the property, right? But still, that's what niching down will do for you. Is people just know you, and so it doesn't happen automatically. I can tell you that anybody who knows me, they know dream clients. They know that I'm the dude. They know it, and I see it now. And it's kind of funny because I've seen it over and over again with colleagues and people now understanding simplification. They're looking at uh, dream life. They don't call it dream life model, but I'm seeing it more and more, and I'm really super proud of it. Not that they're going to credit me, or maybe I wasn't even a part of it. I don't really know, but I see it, and I've been doing that consistently, and everybody knows that. So for the last 5 years, 6 years, everybody knows I've been talking about simplification, dream life model, which is like build everything around your life. Start working with people who are soul aligned with you. And I mean SOUL, soul aligned. Not just people who are transactional, not just cool avatars, but people who generate like life in you as well, as a soul, as a best friend. Like everybody knows that. So that message is consistent, and sooner or later, you know, that's what brings people to my world because they want that. And I'm speaking to those people. So that's what consistency will do for you.
Oh my God. I always learn something so amazing from you. I always get like this, like, oh my God, like just moment.
Thank you.
I just had one. And because it applies to me. So when you talk about being known for one thing, right? I I'm known for a certain skill that I have, and everyone knows me. Well, not everyone, but in my world, people know me. That's my
Hmm.
thing. But what I haven't focused on as much is what's the one thing the client gets. Like it's all very well, like what's the one thing I'm known for? But what's the one thing? And I do say it, but I've never been intentional about it. It's almost like it's inferred. And it just became very clear to me is there's also one thing that every client will get. Every client will get. And I haven't focused as much, like the way I position it
Yeah.
isn't so much about that. It's, man, this is the one thing I do, and I do it well, and that's why I'm a great coach. But what I haven't made, like I haven't highlighted, whatever the word is what's the one thing you're going to get, right? And so now that just came to me, and now I've got to
Yeah.
go and not
It
rework it.
is. Yeah,
Just
and
like,
it is about the client because the one that's why I'm very intentional about using the words 96% of your time back. Like I choose 96% for a reason. One, because it's a huge number and it's out and it's like, wow, that sounds kind of bullshitty to me. But tell me more about that, right? But then I also have the 4% multiplier, which is the actual thing that gets you the 96%. So I can pair the two if I wanted to talk about it. And so I was asked on the last Kajabi thing that I do every month about a healthy business or something. We started talking about 96% or something like that. And I said, it's it's funny that you could look at a $250 million business and a $250,000 business, and $250,000 is probably more healthy for a lot of us. And I don't know about you guys, but I really don't want a $250 million business. Don't even know if I want $1 million business, because if I made 250,000 or $500,000 revenue and had an 80% profit level on that, that's pretty darn good money. And so they called me on it. They're like, "What are you talking about?" I go, "Think about it. To run my business right now, it only costs me, and I forget what the number was. I had to look it up. I think it was like $15,000 a year or something like that, with all the tools that I have, all the stuff, right? And I think that's even stretching it. But I went through it and I looked at them and I showed them. I go, look, so Zoom is like $100 and some odd dollars a year. This is blah blah. So and they're like, wow, that's it. I go, yeah. So even if it was $20,000 a year to run the business and you're making $250,000, and I'm talking about all the stuff, the tech, your assistants, like all of it, okay? Don't you think $250,000 is a pretty darn good healthy business when it only costs you 20 or 25,000 to run it? I go, that is a business, that, and it's simple. And if you so and then you move it down to, like, and this is all I'm sharing all this because this is very intentional, right?
mhm.
So it's like, okay, if all I need is that and I can make, let's say, 200,000 as an income, my personally, and the business is run taken care of with 50,000, I'm like, cool. What do I need to do to get that? And I don't want to have all these clients. I don't need thousands and thousands of people. I raise the price to this level, and I only need 25 or 50 people a year, right? So it's very intentional about how you're growing the business. That really matters. And I'm not sure a lot of people really take the time to look at that and reverse engineer it to, like, what do
Yes,
you want this to look like?
yes, right. So absolutely, right? I think a lot of people start on the front end, right? This is what I've got
Hmm.
to do, blah, and then, but 3 years down the line, is that going to give you the type of lifestyle you want? What you're saying, and I've heard there's someone specific who I've heard say that, but is think about what's the lifestyle you want. What do you want? Like for me, it's like I need to be able to work from anywhere, right?
Hmm.
So,
Yes.
whatever that lifestyle is, then are you building something that's actually going to give you that lifestyle? Otherwise, you can find yourselves 3, 5 years down the line and you're making like whatever money, maybe more money than you thought,
Right.
and you don't have the lifestyle you want. Or there's some, maybe it's not lifestyle, but there's something that you didn't think of and now it's missing, right?
Right.
And so again, it all comes back to intention and that you taking the time to think things through. And these things don't you don't think it through in a day. You don't sit
Yeah.
down, oh, I'm going to do this for 3 hours and I'm going to map it all out and it's all going to matter. I mean, you're going to start, but I mean, I can see in our conversations, like almost every conversation, like there's an evolution, right? And but it's in the same lane. It's
Yes.
just,
Yes.
that lane's just getting smoother and whatever.
Yes.
And so I know what a lot of people don't like doing. And again, this is like from my world. I'm not saying I think everyone knows that, is they don't like to self-assess. And they don't want to sit down and look at what worked and what didn't. They rather just ignore it and hope for the best. And I've worked with some really high level people that
Mm-hmm.
in different industries, and they hated doing it. And then 4 months, 5 months down the line, it's like, what the hell? This hasn't been working since month one. I go, why? I hate to say it, but I told you. And so I think also part of it comes down, we've got to do things that are uncomfortable. We've got to do things that we maybe don't like doing, but those are the things that could be the game changer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When it comes to, self-assessment, that is huge. But one of the dangers, at least from an entrepreneur level, is research mode and, just sitting back inside of not really moving forward, not really doing anything, and busy work. So you're in research or whatever you want to call it, and then busy work. And I was there for so many years. I still get into it. I still get into this busy work, but now it's a completely different change of, well, why am I make a lot of choices. So somebody might look at my business and say, well, why aren't you doing that? Like, why aren't you going after clients right now when you're doing this over here? Well, there's an intention behind that, right? But from an entrepreneurial level, and any entrepreneur listening to this, like, hear me, because if you don't have the intention, I don't want to get into a goal setting type of conversation, because that's not really what this is. It's more of, would you say that this is more of a bigger picture thing, Lauren, or not? Like, what is it? What could we define the intention before I continue?
Define it.
Yeah. Like if you said to me, have an intention for your business, right? Like what would that mean?
Make a choice.
Okay.
For,
So the
make a
intention would what? So give me an example. If you were
So
coaching
make
me.
a choice for your business, and then all the choices you make must be towards that outcome that you want.
Mm,
So, so my choice is to do mental performance with athletes. So now I wasn't always doing that. So now I have to make sure that whatever I'm doing
yep.
is choice is intentional or purposeful to move things along. So for me, intention is a choice of what you choose to do, of how you choose to show up. So I guess another word for it is choice, because you can also be intentional about the wrong thing or not the best thing.
Yeah.
So I was very intentional today about doing busy work. And I know that. And I actually was intentional about it because I'm exhausted. And I knew, like, if I was going to try and do brain work today, I would have gotten nowhere. So I chose to do busy work, that I've knocked out a whole bunch of things today. But it wasn't because I, I get, it was because I didn't want to do something else, but it's not because I didn't feel like doing it or because I'm not capable of doing it. I wouldn't have been able to give my best to it. And so then that comes to, productivity. Because if
Right.
I had tried to do the brain work today, I don't think I would have made much progress.
Right.
I knew this morning, like it's not going to happen today. So
Yeah.
I chose something different, like the busy work. I was very intentional about it. I knocked out so much stuff. So now it's done, right? So it's also, we can be intentional about things. As you say, someone might look at me and go like, why are you doing that today when you've got this big thing that you need to have done by Friday?
Right,
Because
right.
sometimes you just need to do what you need to do. Sometimes, but as you said, it was still intentional. It
Yeah,
was
no,
just
that's a really big point. Is intentionally not doing something grand or brain work or something that moves the needle of the major business, but it takes away some of the other stuff that's on the back burner. I like to use the whole back burner front burner thing as my priority thingy, and I'm like, okay, well, this is on the back burner right now, and I really don't have the brain power to do this other thing, so I may as well bring the back burner thing to the front right now and and just switch the pots, right? And at least get something done, because that back burner is going to be there for a little while. So you're
right.
intentional about slacking off, if for the lack of a better word, but and that's intentional. But then there's the other part, which is what I was alluding to, which is where you could live in that busy work, thinking that
Oh,
you're actually moving the business forward, and that's not true. And that's
and
not what
so
I'm saying you're doing, but I'm just saying for anybody listening to this.
that, and that when from my experience, when people are there, it's because they either don't know what to do or they don't want to do what they have to do or they're uncomfortable, and so they're staying where it's safe,
Would you
right?
also say that that person doesn't have an intention? Like, you know what I mean? If you really drill down, and I believe that if you would have asked me a couple of years ago and say, well, why are you doing all this? Like, what's the intention of the business? The answer would be, well, I just want freedom and I want to grow the business and make money. But there's no real intention there. And like anybody's going to say that. So would you agree with that?
So I'm thinking of a few clients in specifically that come to mind, and I would say, as much as they said that what they wanted, what they wanted, right? Their intention, and it eventually became explicitly communicated, their intention was to be safe. The intention was to stay small because it was less risky, it was less uncomfortable. And so I think of one client that this was like it was a huge thing. Um, he kept trying to get ahead with sales, right? And his sales process. And it was just going nowhere. And eventually the breakthrough we got was that he didn't want to ask people for money. He was uncomfortable challenging people like on a sales call and so he just played along kind of thing. And so eventually, and he wasn't getting any results.
Yeah.
And it came, oh, and the script doesn't work, and now it's not the script, it's this and that and whatever, right?
Yeah.
It all, he was uncomfortable. And so the conversation we had was, look, I'll support you either way. So if you choose to stay comfortable, which is fine, I'll help you be the best uncomfortable person you can be, then you have to understand that that goal that you have is going to take much longer. So you can choose to go slow and stay comfortable, or you can choose to get uncomfortable and go a little faster. So they go, I'm choosing to stay comfortable and go slow. Oh, fine,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? 3 months later, we end of the quarter, we see the results and whatever. He goes, oh my God, I'm so not doing that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, so the point is that it comes back to what you were saying, where people are stuck in busy work, or they stuck doing something that consciously or subconsciously they know is not working, but they're not taking ownership for it because that's hard. It's easier to say it's the script, it's this, it's that, than it's me who's not stepping up. And so it's kind of like you're just going in circles, and that's where and that's what you were speaking about, I think, right? You just,
Yeah.
does that make sense? I don't even know
Yeah,
if that.
it's no, it does. It's more, like there's so many areas of intention that matter to the conversation and to anybody listening to this, because I look back at the last couple of years of my own growth of the business and what I intentionally did that looked from the outside that I'm not doing anything whatsoever. Especially when I think back to 2 years or so with building my Notion thing and all the stuff you said you saw organization. Like, that's all intentional. And even though the sales of the program of Atlas was not as much in the past 2 years as it was prior, because the intention was I need to find all this stuff, because every single year or almost every day I'm frustrated because I can't find something that I know that I have that I want to talk about or repurpose, or something that will actually help me sell Atlas. Right. So it was like, no, let me pull the arrow back just a little bit further and not shoot right now, so that I could, when I do release it, it'll be so much more powerful, on target. And that was an intention. But you look back and you look at it and they say, "Wow, your business didn't grow continuously like it was growing over the past 3 years. It kind of grew and then it just kind of went like that." Yeah, I'm okay with that, because that's what I did. But that's setting me up for the next 2 or 3 or 5 years down the road, right? So it's this intentional piece, and this is what I mean by, especially when it comes down to training and all this stuff, education. And you know how big I am on this. Like, I'm so into this. But I was caught for many, many years, too many to count, of not really having an intention to what that was really doing for me. It was just like, look at how great I am and look at all the stuff I'm learning, and knowledge helps me now a little bit, but there was still no intention. Like, why are you taking all these courses? Why are you reading all the books? Why are you, well, cuz,
Mm.
right? And there was no intention to it. Now there is. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
And here's the other thing, two things. So one is everyone knows about a to-do list, right? Dean Graziosi speaks about a not-to-do list.
I love those.
And I love that. I love that I learned that from him, right? Because when you are explicit about what you're not going to do, then I found your to-do list actually gets shorter and the quality of it is
Yes.
better,
Yes.
right? So that was the one thing. And then the other thing is it comes back to consistency and progress or not seeing progress, right? It may seem like there's no progress and you're hitting your head against a brick wall, but if you stay consistent with the intention of finding what it is, if you're looking for something, it will come. Sometimes we have to go through that, floundering. Oh my God, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't want to do this. But you still keep putting one foot in front of the other. The end result may be that definitively, I'm never doing this. What I thought I wanted to do or I thought I could do, you might spend 6, 7 months figuring that out. But when you do, it's like, they say, I was saying to the same person I met with, I go, like, I'm on the wall and I'm jumping down and I'm landing on a trampoline. And I know, but last year was a very huge transitional year for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like I was just walking into a brick wall the whole year. But I kept knocking my head again. Sometimes I was saying insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. But ultimately, I did get a different result, not because I was doing the same thing, but I kept reflecting, okay, it's not what, something feels off. And so it was kind of like I was walking through quicksand, but I did keep moving.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people would have given up.
Yeah, that's true.
I was
I mean,
like, I'm just
yeah,
checking out.
yeah, I see that so many times. Uh, and it's unfortunate, and it's because they're caught in busy work. And I think that, yeah, I don't know, like, yeah, when you're doing reflection, if you're in the same thing, you're talking about, like, my period was that 2016, those 3 years of doing something, and that's a great analogy of being on the treadmill or the trampoline and bouncing back up and not going, what am I doing here? But I was still moving forward one step at a time, trying things out, and then looking back, and I didn't. I think I should have done a little bit more reflection of what it really felt like. But again, I don't know if I really regret that, but it eventually, it wasn't. I was bouncing around a lot, doing a lot of different things. That didn't work. This didn't work. I was a guinea pig for a lot of things. spent a lot of money that I didn't have into guinea pig things, and like, okay, well, that didn't work either. Um, but that then when you move forward and you say, okay, all that stuff didn't work, it had everything to do for me about why didn't this work, and it wasn't just the tactic, it wasn't just the strategy, it was that it wasn't in alignment with who I am. And then so if we come back to intention, I think that's where I was going with this when I asked you, what does intention truly mean? And I think that intention is, does this align with my soul? Does this whole thing align? And even just recently, when I was thinking about my dream clients and how I want to position out in the world, what am I doing? I just told you about the $1 million thingy. Do I really want that? Do I really want a $10 million business? Like, nah, probably not. I didn't really want that. And that's not a limiting mindset. It's not like, well, I don't think I can do that. It's not that. $1 million, yeah, maybe I do want that. I don't know, but I definitely don't want what comes with like a standard $1 million business, which is teams and all these other things and all these moving components and all that. Like, no, if it can be very simple the way it is right now with maybe a couple more clients, fantastic. But if that is violated, here's the intention piece, right? If that has to be violated, then it's not going to happen. I'll be happy with 500,000. You know what I mean? So then even today, I was playing around with messaging, or like, what is this all about? And I realized that I'm intentionally looking for 50 to 100 people per year to coach personally in the group setting, one-on-one thing. That's it. That's it. So I'm intentionally going out into the world now to say, this is all I'm taking on. I'm not about thousands of people. I'm not about tens of thousands on multiple Zoom pages deep so that you can maybe get an answer question, your question answered. I'm not about that. I'm intentionally looking now for this is the parameters of what I do every year. That's it. Every year I take on 50 to 100 people because people graduate, like they get to a point of what I do really best, right? Getting to 100, 125,000 a year. And then they graduate. So some people leave and they move on and they go on to other people or whatever, and they grow. And then I have room for new people. And this is all an intention. This is all sitting back thinking, this is all I need. And this is, so what am I going to do now to send this message out? And who are the people that I need on the team to help me do this? VAs and my team and all the amazing people I have, right?
Yep. And I mean, there's so many things to have intention around. I think that's pretty obvious. And, for me last year, it was the intention to figure it out.
Right. And that's huge.
And it took the time that it took. But because I had that intention and I was committed and I was so unattached. So here's another thing. I knew I wasn't in the right place. I did not get, I kept going the whole year, recognizing what I didn't want, what didn't feel right, which was most of last year. But I knew how I wanted to feel. I knew how I wanted to feel when whatever it was would be. And I was totally unattached to
Yeah.
how that. So, I didn't have an intention about what it would be, but I had a very clear intention of how I wanted to feel when I wake up every day. And I feel like I've landed in a dream now. And but I did the work and I didn't give up and I kept getting up even when I didn't want to. And but I was like I knew I knew what I wanted to do. I didn't know how it would look. I didn't know how I was going to make it happen. I knew how I wanted to feel. I couldn't pinpoint anything. Most of last year was seeing what I didn't want and what I wasn't enjoying, which kind of goes to what Dean says in a different way. But and you have to know yourself, right? So I'll give you. I'll use myself in as example. I need. How can I put it? I need definitive answers. So I need to understand why something is the way, right. And
Okay.
so I need to, like, that's my thing. If brownies are made this way and they're the best brownies, I need to know. And it's just a curiosity in me. It's not for any other reason. It's just my DNA. I want to know how those brownies are made. Oh, obviously, if it's something I'm interested in, right?
Right.
Um, I need I need to understand the big picture. I need to understand why that picture is the way it is. Otherwise, I can't put it to rest.
Right.
And,
Right.
right? It's like unfinished business. And so I could say to myself, like, oh my God, like, why did it take me so long to figure this out? Because Lauren needed to knock off all the things that it wasn't. So when I landed here, I know with absolute certainty this is the right thing because I experienced all the wrong things. And I know,
Exactly.
and this is just me personally because I know myself. So I could look back and go, oh my God, it took me the whole year. What a waste. Like, how did I come out and get it together? Like, it wasn't that complicated. Because if I had, I would have had doubt. Because I would have gone, well, you didn't try this, and maybe you didn't try hard enough, and you didn't do this. And so I wouldn't have trusted what I landed. If I'd landed on this last year, I would have doubted this as well. Because I hadn't put everything else, okay, it's not like checked it off the list in a. And so, but that's me. Other people process differently and they need, so maybe it would take them like 3 months. But that's also, you have to know yourself. Have to know you don't have to do anything. It helps to know and understand how you work because now, and I knew it last year as well. Like I was irritated, I was frustrated, I was getting pissed off 100%. But I also knew why it was happening. I knew
Mm-hmm.
it. That's
Mm-hmm.
why I didn't stop. And now I there's not one cell in my body that has any doubt.
Yeah.
Not one. But I wouldn't be able to say I wouldn't be able to say that if I hadn't have gone through that. And so, that's another piece of being is figure yourself out.
Yeah.
Different.
Yeah.
We all
And
differently. We all need different things. Um, But when you do, then it's like, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. This sucks, but I understand like why this has to happen. Um, it just takes so much stress off. It doesn't mean it's easier. It doesn't mean it's more pleasant.
no.
But um, I think when you can understand something, then you can either appreciate it or have peace with it. I don't know. It just changed. It just changed. Like for me, I
No,
think
I
it's
think
different.
that it's important that you mention that. I want to give it a specific example of making a choice, like for anyone listening. And by the way, if you're listening with us now, let us know with a hashtag live or hashtag replay. Appreciate you. Thank you for being here. And I think it was last year. What are we? 2025? Yeah, I think 2024 June. A year ago was my last Atlas cohort, and I've been doing them consistently for 5 years or 4 years at that point. And so I intentionally decided in June of last year to stop doing them, not forever, but to pause. And the reason was because AI was already happening, and then it was like, what's going on here? It was rapidly changing, and I knew there would be some disruption to the world and to the online world and all that stuff. So I decided, I'm going to set back and watch what happens here, because everybody, including myself, was distracted and probably even more now with, wow, this AI thingy, right? And so it was going to be a little bit more difficult to go out and sell the thing. That was maybe my limited brain. And then I was also, building the thing behind the scenes with Notion and all that. So it was like that time of intentional thing. I'm not gonna sell anything now between now and the next and the year out. Um, and so financially it hurt a little bit, right? But it was cool, and I'm glad I did that because April of this year is when I restarted Atlas, with all of the stuff I've been learning over AI and all this stuff with that intention, right? So it was like, okay, I'm glad I did that, because back then I would have been selling like, here's how you do, here's the best 5-10 prompts for this, and get caught in that early stuff that is completely gone now, right? So it's knowing when to wait sometimes, and with intention of like, this is going to come back in another different way, which I could not see it. I could not see how or why or when until now. Now is like, okay, now I see where this is going to go. Now, talk to me next year. This conversation may be completely different again, but at this point, I'm more intentional about, okay, where does Atlas, my core thing, now fit into this world of now AI, of everybody thinking they can press a button and create courses? Like, where does this all fit? So this is why it's important to understand where your business is and intentionally do things that may stall the growth of it sometimes, but it's for a reason. And at the same time, we come back to, the whole content thing of like, I'm not everywhere because of this reason. That personally for me, I'm just giving you examples for me. It doesn't have to be for everybody else. What do you think?
Yeah, and so everything we're saying, it all comes back to intention and choice.
Yeah.
And I think people take nothing away. It's what I would say is to make sure you are making the choices that are going to allow you to be your best self, and that are going to allow you to give the best of you. Because otherwise it's not going to be great. Doesn't mean you won't make money, doesn't mean whatever, but if you take the time to know, like, and we spoke about it, the lifestyle, your personality, um, you know, environment, type of people, like where, like if, and this is why I still am waking up every morning going, I can't believe it. I feel like I've been dropped into a world I've always wanted to be in, literally since I was 10 years old, right? And I've known it all along. The opportunity hasn't been there. I haven't been ready. I wasn't brave enough to pick that lane. But now it's like I've been dropped into like my heaven. So I think a way to, and for my personality, my interests, my skills, all of it. And so I think maybe a way to look at it is for people listening is to go, if I was going to be dropped into my ideal world where I was doing what I loved with the people I wanted, with the skills that I'm good at, and the lifestyle that I have, then where would you want to be dropped into? And then be intentional about getting there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to wrap it. And then, one thing I want to add to that is as you were speaking, I thought about, okay, what does the intention really mean? And I think that it comes down to, what's the reason? Like, what's the reason you are doing this? And if you don't have a reason except for, well, because Joey's doing it, or Lauren's doing it, or the course told me to do it, I don't know if that's the right answer. The right answer is, and the point of this is that if you have a reason for it, like for me, like that, the last example was, I'm going to just stop Atlas for the next year. And people said, well, why would you do that? Because I don't really know what's going to happen with AI. And there's some way that this is going to affect how it's going to be taught in the future. Like, that's the reason. That's an intentional reason. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because I didn't know what the outcome would be. And I still really don't know. But the whole idea of this, what we're talking about today, is when you're doing something, have a reason for it, even if you don't know what the outcome is. And even if the reason you said, and you go to a time period, a week or a year, whatever, and it just totally sucks, you still had a reason. And that
Yeah.
should be okay. Like, pat yourself on the back and say, I did this for a reason. It didn't work out the way I wanted it to, but this is why I did it. But if you
And not
don't know, I think that's a dangerous place to be.
and not everything is going to work out,
Yeah.
and that's, but it comes, what I want to say comes full circle to where we started about, consistency and intention and purpose. like one of my pet peeves, and not even a pet peeve, like it's like a red rag in the bull, right? Is when I'm training coaches or I listen to coaching calls and I'll say, why did you ask that question? And they can't answer. It's like, well, what the hell? Like, then why did you ask it? There has to be an intention. So even like when you go like down to the like things that you wouldn't even like think about, you know. And I'll give you one other example, which is when I was living in Toronto, and I used to go to the running club, right? And is it still around? I think it is.
I don't know. I'm outside of the city,
I
so
through the running club, and I just started running, so it was new to me. And so we were training for our first 10K. And so the way the running room used to teach it, I don't know if they still do it now, was I think you ran for 10 minutes, walked for 5, something like that. So two things actually, what I wasn't going to say is I used to, in races, I used to put myself next to, like I used to find someone who I could see was running all the time. I wanted to see like, I'm going to do what the running room taught, and I want to see like where we end up. And inevitably we either finished at the same time or was a little bit ahead, if nothing unforeseen happened, right? Which just proves. But I remember when whoever was coaching us, when it was the walking part, they go walk with purpose, walk with purpose. Don't just, you know, and so it comes into every part of your life if you have that awareness. And I think you just become better at whatever you're doing. So when
yeah,
I like, I don't know why you're asking a question, and then all of a sudden you pay attention and you become intentional. You're going to be better at it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, like
Um,
what's the outcome of this? What's the reason I'm doing this? What's the reason I'm asking this question? Yeah, because a lot of times I was just, even when I was learning how to coach or beginning on clarity calls or whatever it was, and I was just like, um, just reading the script. I was just waiting for somebody to stop talking so I could go to the next piece, and then there was really, I guess the intention was like, hey, I want to sell Lauren tonight on this coaching thingy, but there was no intention to the conversation. And we haven't really talked about that today in terms of the dream clients or your who you're really talking to in terms of clients, potential clients. What's the intention of the conversation? Yes, it's to get the sale maybe later on, whatever. But even in the moment, I've seen myself, and I've been teaching this for many, many years, Lauren. But I see myself, or I have to catch myself to not move to the, well, I'm just going to show them my stuff, like show them my sales page and because I'm always aware. Like I'm glad you keep bringing this up. Like I'm very aware of what's going on, and I'm good at pulling myself out of the situation and looking at myself from 30,000 feet up and
that's a
going,
great to have.
yeah, go Joey, you're doing what you're telling other people not to do, or you're about to do this, so don't do that. And I've done it. Like I've been in chat messages or something and I'm writing something down, I'm like, wait a second, backspace, 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 right? Or delete, and then get right into the moment, because the intention was, wait a minute, I'm trying to get to know this person, or I'm trying to help them, and this and that. And so I don't know why I was telling you that story, but it's very intentional about conversations in the moment of where it's going, not the always the end result.
And I know we could go on forever. So this is the last thing I want to add to the conversation is the other thing is being honest with yourself. Because
Right.
it's like I was intentional today about busy work,
Yeah.
and I was honest about it. So it wasn't like I'm not kidding myself, right?
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. And again, it comes back to fitness. So let's just say I decide I want to get really fit, and I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock every morning to go running, and I
Yeah.
get up at 4. I get them the next morning, and then the next morning I don't, and I go. The first time I do it, oh, it's too hot outside, and then the next time I do it, oh, I went to bed too late. But if I would be really honest with myself, I would go, no, I just want to sleep in today.
Yeah.
It's not whether it's not that I went to bed. I'm choosing this, and so if I'm choosing this, then enjoy that, and don't then beat yourself up because you didn't choose something else, or don't. tell yourself that the reason was something else, because then you're going to feel shitty because you're going to know, even if it's not conscious, that you're not being congruent. So sometimes the intention is to choose what seems like the easy thing, but it might be what you need.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it comes back to knowing yourself, being honest with yourself, having that reflection, and then just being congruent. But you also can't choose to sleep in bed. Like, if I had to choose to sleep in late every day, then at
Yeah,
some
the
point,
intention, different
right?
intention.
Clearly, my intention wasn't to get healthy and fit. Right? So then it's a whole a whole different situation.
I love it. Lauren, this has been amazing as always. Thank you for bringing this topic up. I know, like you said, we can talk about this for forever. We'll get you on another show, as always, in the future, and come up with another topic. Who knows what that's going to be like? Hopefully, you liked this conversation as well. Thank you for being here with a hashtag live or hashtag replay now or at the end of the show. Always appreciate you watching this for the last 6 odd years. Lauren, any last words before we part for tonight?
Well, Joey and I, we don't know what the next show is going to be about, but we have an intention that we're going to show up and we're going to have an intention to deliver value. We just don't know what the will be, but we have very clear intentions. The
Uh,
details might go.
what a brilliant way to wrap it up. Amazing. Thank you, Lauren. You're amazing. I love you, and we'll see you back soon. And as well for you guys, we'll see you back next Tuesday at 7 p.m. for Heart Centered Marketing. Have a great night and the rest of your week.